me this. What do you get when you mix a state-of-the-art DNA sequencing lab, the genetic material of dead species, a zoological resort, corporate nonsense, an irresponsible geneticist, some military warmongering, and insufficient security protocols? You get one of the greatest animal exhibition failures ever recorded in the Omni-Bestiary, which was all sparked by the creation of today's subject, the Indominus Rex. Presented by Verizon. The Indominus Rex's origins can be traced to the InGen Corporation's plan to create was essentially a zoo for dinosaurs, which they discovered they could bring back to life by taking their preserved DNA and using it to germinate cloned specimens. After several botched starts and some changes in management, they eventually succeeded in bringing Jurassic World to fruition. However, the creatures exhibited here were not perfect one-for-one copies of their ancient ancestors. InGen has made it a habit to alter these species' original genome, which led to physical changes like the removal of feathery downs, an increase in velociraptor size, and with the Spinosaurus that seemed more suited for hunting on land rather than in an aquatic environment. Of course, some of these changes were inadvertently done out of necessity, as they needed to replace damaged genes with those of similar, currently existing animals. But other ones were influenced by the beliefs of their lead scientist, Dr. Henry Wu. Oh, wait a minute! They took away his doctorate! Anywho, Mr. Wu believed that the dinosaurs exhibited in Jurassic World should represent what the public wants to see from dinosaurs rather than their natural state. Which is weird considering the biggest thing affecting that perception is Jurassic World, but whatever. So, naturally, when Jurassic World's corporate baboons saw the slightest dip in guest attendance, the most logical move for them to increase publicity was to, obviously, authorize the creation of a hybrid dinosaur, a chimera, spliced from the DNA of the most fearsome predators of the prehistoric era, designed to blow guests away with the power that genetic engineering can produce. And thus, Wu's team went ahead and produced 2 specimens of the Indominus Rex, of which one was eaten by the other. Yeah, that might be a red flag there. The I-Rex is a gargantuan, pale-skinned beast, possessing razor-sharp claws and 74 replaceable teeth. Observations on this creature while in captivity report that it could run at speeds of 30 miles per hour and roar with the intensity to rival the noise of a Boeing 747. As its name and form suggests, the primary template for its development was the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the famous Cretaceous-era predator, whose heightened sense of smell, powerful jaws, and keen eyesight made it truly fearsome. For the Indominus, alterations were made to the T-Rex blueprint, such as the addition of extended forelimbs, horn protrusions on its body, and the ability to change its skin color to camouflage. Yes, because nothing screams big-ticket attraction like an animal people can barely see. I jest, of course, because the Indominus was never fully intended to be part of an exhibition. During its development, Wu secretly plotted with InGen's head of security to design this creature so it could be implemented in military engagements. Thus, some extra bells and whistles were planned in the I-Rex's genome to create a truly savage, cunning, and well-equipped hunter. To prevent any meddling, they made sure that their higher-ups were completely oblivious to this plot. But this also meant the people keeping the Indominus in its enclosure were ill-equipped to properly handle it, and they were fooled into letting it escape. Now free to unleash its full genetically engineered ferocity on the island, it quickly brought Jurassic World to its knees, as it killed everything it came across and outwitted all attempts to subdue it. The sheer mayhem this thing caused made many wonder what the heck was used to make it. Unfortunately, my attempts to access and analyze the full genome of this creature on InGen's database ended in failure, so I can't give you the full list of species. But I can at least confirm some of the creatures that were used here. Some of the highlights include the Majungasaurus, one of the theropod species that were used in addition to the Tyrannosaurus, to presumably fill in any gaps in the design. It was also theorized to be cannibalistic, which might explain the aforementioned symblicide. The Giganotosaurus was also used here, as it is believed to be one of the largest theropod dinosaurs, with the largest known specimen being estimated to be up to 43 feet long. However, Wu claimed that the Indominus could grow larger than each of its components, with lengths predicted to exceed 50 feet. How the Indominus' genetic cocktail is able to do this is unknown. The I-Rex's hardened protrusions, more formally known as osteoderms, came from the inclusion of Carnotaurus DNA. These bony osteoderms, which are also found in species like alligators, serve as a natural armor to reduce any harm taken from animal attacks and other such threats. It serves a similar function in the Indominus, but InGen's genetic engineers appear to have cranked up their durability to insane levels, as they allowed it to deflect gunfire and even tank explosions from rockets. Speaking of alligators, DNA from their ancestor, the Deinosuchus, was also reported to be used in the Indominus' tooth design. Deinosuchus is also noteworthy for having one of the strongest bite forces among all animals to have existed on Earth, with estimates of it applying up to around 100,000 newtons of force, about 25 times the amount needed to break human bone, and more than enough to puncture glass claimed to deflect a 50 caliber bullet. This would definitely have been implemented in the creation of this ultimate predator. One of the most well-known, and heavily mocked, aspects of the T-Rex and its cousins are their stubby, diminutive front limbs. Scientific speculation has produced varying explanations for how their arms work, whether they allowed them to more effectively pin down prey, or if they were merely vestigial structures that were being sacrificed for more development toward their more powerful head and neck muscles. Whatever the reason, Wu's team decided to ignore this and elongated the I-Rex's arms with Therizinosaurus DNA, whose dexterous limbs ended with 1.5 foot long claws, the longest among all terrestrial species on Earth. Oddly, the I-Rex also appears to have opposable thumbs, which were not present on the original specimen. It is unknown what additional species they added to form such a structure, though we can assume that they used the DNA of a readily available creature with. They didn't. Nah, some other dinosaurs had opposable thumbs. They probably just used one of those. As mentioned previously, InGen often spliced the DNA of extant animals into their clones. Some common additions included crocodilians, ratites, and even junglefowl, as one of the few cohesive dino DNA samples I found implies. They also put frog DNA into their creatures, which was notorious for being suspected of causing unforeseen sex changes in what was supposed to be an all-female population, a biological function that is known to occur during the development of certain amphibian species upon exposure to varying hormone levels. The tree frog DNA put in the Indominus, however, grants it the use of different mechanisms. Wu said that was so the Rex could inherit the frog's ability to regulate its body temperature so it may better acclimate to the tropical climate of Isla Nublar, but also allowed it to hide from infrared sensors, to the chagrin of InGen's acid containment unit. This occurs through a change in skin color, which the Indominus could do with the chromatophores it got from cuttlefish DNA. Chromatophores are specialized cells containing pigments that allow the cuttlefish to quickly change their color to hide from threats or to ambush prey. Cuttlefish are also known to use these to create a vivid oscillating pattern to, well, essentially hypnotize prey. But it's unknown whether or not the Indominus figured out how to do this as well. The Rex is just as good at finding those who are hiding as it is at hiding itself, thanks to a special organ from the pit viper. This pit organ grants the Indominus an infrared sensor of its own, allowing it to find targets that radiate body heat. But without doubt, the most dangerous addition to the Indominus' design is the mind of the Velociraptor. While paleontological data suggests that the dromaeosaurids possess relatively large brains, the raptor populations produced by InGen outright showed many of the hallmarks of advanced cognitive thinking, such as the formulation of plans to catch prey, tactical deception, problem solving, participation in cooperative activities, and a need for enrichment. Although in the Indominus' case, it was hunting for sport. It also gave the Indominus what is potentially its most bizarre trait: the ability to communicate with raptor vocalizations, allowing it to establish itself in a pack and hunt alongside them. Each of these components made the Indominus Rex a truly fearsome and nigh unstoppable hunter. But despite all the research put into assembling this creature, it ultimately proved lacking against aquatic ambush predators when it met its end at the jaws of a mosasaurus. Although its reign of terror has come to an end, the legacy of the Indominus Rex lives on, as the slaughter caused by this creature ultimately forced the shutdown of Jurassic World. Thus, the prehistoric species on the island were left to live without human intervention. However, desires to exploit, sell, and splice these creatures continued to fester. Eventually, an attempt was made to capture these dinosaurs under the guise of an overly optimistic rescue mission, which culminated in their transport to Northern California, where a series of shenanigans led to them being let loose into the wild. This is, quite obviously, a massive problem. One reason being that multiple invasive species have been released into North America all at once. Invasive species are creatures that appear in an ecosystem outside their homeland, often due to human carelessness, and have the capacity to severely harm the native wildlife. This can be through hunting prey that have not evolved sufficient defenses due to them never encountering the invasive predator before, or by outcompeting native animals, leaving them without food and resources that are needed for survival. It was reported in 2005 that 42% of the endangered and threatened species protected under the U.S. Endangered Species Act of 1973 were at risk of extinction due to these invasive creatures. In addition, the extinction of 33 island animals has been attributed to one of the most dangerous invasive species, the domestic cat. Yes, your cat. And all this isn't even considering the harm these creatures could do to plant life or economic industries. And if this is what modern-day species could do, you could probably imagine what kind of mayhem all these 10-ton dinosaurs would do all at once. Fortunately, you won't have to. I'm about to determine what ecological impact the introduction of all these ancient beasts into the modern world would have on the, modern world.
Well, 10 tons is a bit of an exaggeration here, don't you think?
Whoa! Is that SmaugtheDM? What are you doing here? No, seriously, what are you doing here? I should be in a private pocket dimension right now.
Well, I finally learned how to hack into other people's dimensions through the screens they use to read their scripts off to the audience. And hey, I thought if you're going to do something like this, you should probably have someone backing you up. And besides, you know I'm not going to miss out on a chance to talk about the Jurassic Park franchise ever since we watched Battle at Big Rock together, right?
Well, fine with me. It wouldn't hurt to have a specialist in dinosaurs back me up here. But before we do so, we need to establish several things. Firstly, we'll only mostly be looking at North America for this ecological survey, as this is the only continent that these dinosaurs currently reside on.
Seriously? What about all the dinosaurs sold on the black market?
Yes, they have been transported elsewhere, but as far as we know, they haven't technically been released into the wild yet. So I opt we ignore them.
Fine. But you know they'll eventually get out somehow.
Oh, definitely. Secondly, we need to figure out which specific species we're analyzing here. Footage from the capture on Isla Nublar, the auction at Lockwood's Manor, and from miscellaneous encounters such as one at Big Rock National Park, thanks for reminding me, 100% confirm that the following species are on American soil.
Tyrannosaurus Rex, Velociraptor, Carnotaurus, Pteranodon, Ankylosaurus, Stegosaurus, Apatosaurus, Baryonyx, Compsognathus, Triceratops, Sinoceratops, Nasutoceratops, Allosaurus, Gallimimus, Parasaurolophus, and Stygimoloch. There are also unconfirmed reports of other species, but we will be focusing on the ones that we saw during the breakout in the Manor. We also have an additional wildcard species that we need to address. The Mosasaurus.
Ah, yes. This fellow escaped from Jurassic World during a mission to obtain a genetic sample from the Indominus corpse, which was used in the creation of a short-lived successor, the Indoraptor. Fortunately, the sample was destroyed during the escape, so there's no longer a threat of any more dino hybrids being created. Or at least ones based around the original Indominus Rex.
Anyways, back on topic. The Mosasaurus is currently loose in the Pacific Ocean, where it would have more or less taken the title of apex predator away from the orca and great white shark. It would also very likely try to eat these creatures, given that it already has a taste for shark. Wesley? Wesley, you good? Smaller whales and whale calves are also at risk of being eaten here, which could put these species in even greater risk of becoming extinct than they already were. The Mosasaurus diet would cause fluctuations in the food chain, an example of an ecological concept called Top-Down Control.
Yes. In most ecosystems, the populations of predators and prey fluctuate with each other. When prey populations are high, the predators have more available food, allowing their species to thrive and their population to increase. However, the consumption of prey will decrease their population, which will gradually reduce the amount of food for the predators, and their population will eventually decrease. With the decrease of predators, the prey can thrive, and their population goes up. And thus, the populations of predator and prey continues to increase and decrease in relation to each other.
But when we add the Mosasaurus into the equation, top-down control starts to take effect.
Top-down control is when the species at the top of the food chain influences the populations of other animals. When the Mosasaurus eats its prey, their population decreases. This in turn influences the population of the prey's prey, causing its population to increase due to having less predators. The increase of that population will lead to a decrease in the population of their prey, and so on and so forth.
Basically, what Wesley is saying is that the introduction of the mosasaur into the ecosystem will cause a shift in all the populations within it. Of course, this is a bit more complicated in reality, as relationships between predators and prey is more of a food web where the predators may eat multiple different creatures on different levels. But this should give you a good understanding of what happens when there are changes in the animals presented in an ecosystem. But keep in mind that there is only one mosasaur swimming around right now. So if all of the species in the Pacific are distributed widely enough, it is unlikely that this creature will severely dent certain population levels, even with its voracious appetite.
It also means that unless this creature could surprise us with something like parthenogenesis, the species will eventually pass away, and things should hopefully go back to normal.
If it doesn't eat the last of the humpbacks! I'm sorry. I just had to reference the same argument seen in Jurassic Park Telltale game, which has some elements to it that are officially canon.
This, however, cannot be said for all the dinos on land, since we know that they're breeding. Generally speaking, all the carnivores here will try to eat anything they can get their jaws on, so a lot of these native creatures should expect a dip in their population, which is bad news for critically endangered wolf and pronghorn species.
The herbivores will also most likely outcompete native browsers like deer through sheer size and strength, leaving them with less resources, shelter, and territory, resulting in a decrease in their population as well.
This problem will be exacerbated by the trouble native predators will have in subduing them, meaning the only species that could effectively control these populations through predation are other dinosaurs.
In addition, even though the biomechanics of the apatosaur's neck is the subject of controversy over whether they would more commonly eat from the ground or from trees, much like their giraffe counterparts of today, if they would eat leaves and strip forests bare, it would expose the nest of creatures that live there, making them vulnerable to attacks from raptors. No, not those raptors. The other raptors. Thank you.
That's assuming they survived dive bombs from the pteranodons. As for the compies, I predict that these tiny ankle-biting scavengers will push away other animals that feast on carrion, like vultures and rats, leading to, you guessed it, a decrease in their population. They are also fully armed to swarm larger creatures if necessary, as InGen's population are known to be equipped with a sedative venom. Of course, these dinosaurs won't just cause some damage to the natural world. They will pose a threat to the farming industry as well.
Oh, yeah! When they find a vulnerable farmstead, the herbivores will decimate the crops, and the carnivores will devour all the livestock, thus leading to all sorts of new problems.
Namely, it will reduce the food available in markets and raise their prices, which will force many to dine on processed garbage, which, to say things less eloquently, isn't good. Of course, humans do have several solutions to this. The first is to capture or kill these species, measures commonly used to control invasive species populations.
Something I guarantee will happen when they start treading through populated areas.
Secondly, they could just get meat elsewhere, like from fishing. Oh, right, that guy,
I wouldn't worry about it. Besides, there's still freshwater fishing.
What is...
Oh, no.
That is one big pile of
Is it flowing into the stream? Oh,
Christ.
What? A problem you may not have expected from this onset of dinosaurs is the water pollution caused by their huge piles of excrement. A situation that is currently a massive issue in agriculture due to the use of fertilizers and excessive animal wastes. Runoff water causes chemicals from the substances such as nitrate and phosphorus to flow into rivers and lakes, causing excess algae growth that harms the native wildlife.
This will also inadvertently poison drinking water, which will lead to all sorts of health problems, like blue baby syndrome, a very serious condition stemming from an inability to fully oxygenate blood.
Yes, ultimately, when looking at things from an ecological, health, safety, and economic viewpoint, these dinosaurs will not make things very comfortable for humanity as long as they continue to roam the modern era.
But how long do you think they'd be able to do so?
Huh?
Well, you see, there's one more very important variable that we've yet to take into account. Seasonal changes. Until now, these dinosaurs have only lived on a tropical island, and with the warmer climates of their ancient habitats, with that of the early Cretaceous being described as being warm worldwide with few seasonal extremes, one would assume that they would have great difficulty acclimating to a winter climate.
Sure, but many of these dinosaurs are believed to have a thermophysiology that may help them maintain their body temperatures, with some, like the Velociraptor, being believed to be mesothermic, where they produce most of their body heat through physical activity, while large ones like the Apatosaurus are gigantothermic, where their sheer size reduces the overall loss of body heat to the environment.
It is also not entirely unheard of for avian and even reptilian creatures to handle life in colder places, like with the recent discovery of king cobras in the Himalayan foothills. So although it's extremely unlikely that these dinosaurs would be able to handle life toward the frigid poles, they may be able to acclimate to more nippy temperatures in the central and southern United States, assuming they all haven't made the smart move and dispersed toward the warmer lands near the equator.
Sorry, Universal Studios, Orlando.
But it is what I would say if these were the exact same creatures from 100 million years ago. Don't forget, these specimens were modified from their original genome, and given InGen's previous track record, they may have altered their physiology in a way that was intended to help them live on Isla Nublar, like with the Indominus, but had the unintended consequence of harming their survival elsewhere. Even if this weren't the case, there's also the problem of them not having their feathery downs, or whatever other natural coverings they had that could have helped with insulation.
And if you've ever ran outside naked during a blizzard, you know this is bad news for them.
But of course, I could be wrong here. After all, these creatures have proven time and time again that they are capable of surviving. They bypassed InGen's single-sex population control. They ate their way past the lysine deficiency control through plants containing aqua beans and soy, and they were unaffected by the lesser-known attempts to sterilize them with radiation. It is possible that these dinos could manage to survive in cooler lands.
Heck, there were some pteranodons that were nesting in Canada for a bit before a group of mercenaries killed them off. If that doesn't prove Wesley's point, then I don't know what does.
Right you are, Smaug. After all, you know the old saying, life always finds a way.
What? That is not how the saying goes.
I botched it up! That's all I have to say about the Indominus Rex and all the instability following its creation. Feel free to like and subscribe, as well as follow me on my brand new Twitter. I'm planning something fun once I hit 50 subscribers, so if you wish to share this video, I truly appreciate it. Also, a special thanks to SmaugtheDM for joining me here. Would you like to take this opportunity to shamelessly plug yourself as well?
Thank you, Wesley, for having me here. And as always, if anybody was interested in my expertise here, then check me out at SmaugtheDM here on YouTube. And until next time, guys.
Well, there, I'll finish this. So until the next entry, I'm just gonna sit down and hope no one else creates another prehistoric abomination.
Well, too late.